final panel talk is in collaboration with our partner, Mugafi. This subject revolves around technological advancements and the future of film. The host is Rifi Khan, who is a seasoned TV producer and director with over 15 years of experience in primetime shows. Rifi has also carved a niche as a consultant, facilitating seamless format transitions across diverse cultural landscapes, including Canada, Poland, and South Africa. Having spearheaded acclaimed productions like Come Dine With Me and The Only Way is Essex, and also I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, she blends her artistic sensibilities with a sharp business acumen, underpinning her success in the dynamic world of television production. Rifi Khan, you can come on stage. Thank you. And our next speaker includes Mugafi CEO and founder Vipul Agarwal. Vipul's company aims to democratize content creation by making advanced filmmaking tools more accessible, reducing production costs and allowing a wider range of creators to bring their ideas to life. His innovative approach, let me just move this a little bit, approach focuses on integrating AI into various stages of filmmaking, which helps filmmakers concentrate on creative aspects rather than technical and logistical challenges. His work has gained international recognition, including a notable appearance at the Cannes Film Festival. Welcome on stage, Vipul. Also joining the panel is London Indian Film Festival founder, Carrie Swanee. Carrie has a keen interest in fostering cultural exchange with a diverse range of experiences in the film industry, such as programming, production, and distribution. He has curated numerous film festivals and events beyond the festival, contributing to the exposure of Indian cinema on the global stage. Welcome, Carrie. The last panelist is Thomas Drovakovic. Thomas is the founder and managing director of Dream Bay Entertainment, a fully integrated production company, talent management agency, and media advisory firm. He has held key development roles at Amazon Studios across multiple regions, including the UK, India, and the US. Welcome, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina, and thank you, everyone, for this lovely Saturday afternoon and the final session of the day. And you can relax. So welcome, Thomas, Carrie, and Vipul. It's really a pleasure to meet you here today. To probably, I think, one of the most exciting subjects to talk about, technology and the future of film, the impact. What are the stories that we are going to be telling in the future? How are we telling them? And where are the audience watching them? So starting off with you, Carrie, who, so just a few words, I mean, you've already had that, but you've just about completed your 15th London Indian Film Festival, which is across 6 cities, including Yorkshire, Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, to name a few. So you're at the leading edge of emerging films coming through from the Indian and South Asian filmmakers. What are you seeing coming through? What types of stories?
Well, we're not just into film now, we're into virtual reality, XR, and we're also exploring computer games from India. So that's kind of a whole new technology around moving image frontiers, which we are amazingly leading on in the rest of the world outside of India. So that's really exciting times for us. And I think that ties into the whole idea of technology, and the whole storytelling through technology is really important, and how that transfers between film and gaming, for example, and virtual reality as well, and it's happening in different cities, not just London, but in Birmingham, in Manchester, and Liverpool as well this year.
So tell me about, we're talking about VFX and special effects and augmented reality, the Google glasses. What are you seeing emerging through for your audiences and in the films? Are you seeing any more effects in the films that people are making? Have the costs come down? Expand that, please.
Well, we work more in independent films, so we don't work in the big budget commercial space, except for the film we just closed with, which was called Kill, which was obviously a European premiere of that film, which certainly had VFX in it, but also was very much around great choreography, Korean choreography, for example, in terms of the action sequences in that. So that film is obviously a state-of-the-art, sort of has VFX in it, many of it VFX, and a bigger budget. But the technology for those VFX is definitely world-class. As you're seeing, it's been picked up by the US for a remake. It's a film that's now doing great box office in the US, for example, and it's in nearly 240 screens in the UK. So that's this weekend. So India is obviously competing with the rest of the world in terms of the quality of VFX it can offer. And for many years, it's done the rendering of many of the background scenes of many of the Hollywood films, like Avatar, I believe was rendered in terms of in India as well, Bangalore probably. And so India's always been the kind of edge of creativity. It doesn't always get the credit for it in terms of the credit list. When you see the Hollywood movies roll down, you see the Indians. I always look out for the Indian names at the end of the roll, because it's kind of thinking, you know, how much of these films are made in India, but where do the Indians pop up at the very, usually after everybody's gone, left the auditorium, I'm still watching, waiting for the, for the Indian names to come up at the very bottom. But actually, so it's a kind of change is happening now. I think that's really exciting. You're seeing the credit list. You watch the end of your Hollywood movie, and you'll see the Indians popping up, the Indian names anyway, popping up. Whether they're based in LA, of course, I don't know. But certainly that's a change I've noticed. And as a fan of Indian cinema, and obviously of Indian representation, I think in terms of virtual reality and gaming, then certainly the idea of democratization of that storytelling process, and about young people being involved, much younger people with lower budgets being involved in the kind of making process of games. And for example, we showcased women gamers last year, and it's a completely different, there was the kind of typical male, VR shootout sort of game, which, obviously made for the, for like my nephews, for example. And then there's this amazing game called Fishbowl, which is about a young woman who gets her friends together for a sleepover, and it's a game, and the audiences were really excited about that, because it was something just fresh. And these were not Asian kids, these were English white kids who were actually watching an Indian game, but a woman gamer for the first time. So that's a new process. So all that's kind of at the frontier right now.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, obviously, notably at the Oscars, Godzilla was rumored to have been made for around 15 million, which is a far cry from Christopher Nolan's incredible, 400 million budget. So the costs are coming down, aren't they, in terms of the technology that's out there? You're seeing that through. And in terms of audience, when will we see VR goggles in the cinemas for watching films? Do you think that's a reality soon? Anyone? Carrie?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think what's so talking to XR specialists at the moment in terms of augmented reality, virtual reality, the whole monetization process of XR is not there yet, and it's kind of mooted that once you can get 50 people in a room all experiencing the same XR experience, that's when you'll start making money. It's a bit like early cinema, when you used to watch a bioscope, the projector going, the drum going around, and only one person could watch it at a time. And we're in that kind of stage now, but the next stage will be when you get 50 people watching one XR experience. Then allegedly that's when you'll start making money for the commercial aspects of the production.
Thank you, Carrie. And I'm going to bring in Thomas now. So we've talked about the film festivals and what's coming through in terms of technology. Now, Thomas, in terms of you're a content maker. You've made content, you've overseen content with Amazon Studios in India and over here. In terms of workflows and productions, how are you encompassing technology? Are you using, AI in your day-to-days? Explain that, because there's a lot of filmmakers here, and AI is somewhat intimidating. The whole technology can be intimidating. So if we expand on how's your day-to-day use?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we're using it now quite often, from just, I think, the most minuscule tasks to the bigger ones. On a very small scale, we start using AI as a note taker in our office to allow all of our employees to really engage in all the meetings, and we have actual notes after with action items, so very small scale. And then we do use it in getting our pitch materials ready. I think AI has unlocked a lot of speed and efficiency. I think it's also amplified the level a pitch needs to be in to go to a buyer and their level of expectation, right? So that world building, character building, story arcs, and your actual visible, presentable materials, I think that expectation is really high now from commissioners, that a lot of that work has to be done by the time you come into the door. So we're using that to also help us. I know we view AI as a co-pilot, I think there's a saying, we don't think AI is going to replace you. The person who knows how to use it and when to use it, right, will, right? So we're absolutely adopting it when and we can.
Now, you obviously come from the world of Amazon, OTT, and you obviously are in meetings with OTT and platforms like Netflix. What are the expectations in terms of pitches and ideas? I'm sure we've got people in here that have got concepts they want to take to them. What do they expect? What's the kind of ABC basics?
Well, I know one of the things we've been trying to do is how do you make the decision as easy as possible for a commissioner, right? I've sat in a lot of green light meetings, and it gets to a point where you look at like how successful do we think this show or film will be, and it's based off of a variety of different metrics. What AI kind of allows you to do is analyze the script, analyze the various markets, box office, legacy box office, future box office, and really kind of craft your pitch and also the marketing materials of how well you think it's going to do at the pitch stage, right? So when you go in, we always try to say, okay, we're pitching to the creative executives, one, to get them to like the story first and foremost, but knowing downstream, you're gonna have to get marketing on board and finance on board and social on board and PR, and trying to make everyone's job easier with AI at the start and at the pitch stage of a process.
So that's a far cry when I used to make it. It was just the case, you pitch the idea, you got your characters, you got the concept, you got the structure, and that's it, they'll buy into it. But this is the whole other side. There's a 360 now, at your level, at pitch level. That's
Absolutely, yeah. I think we now have the tools to do that. And so you should take advantage of that. And when you go in with your project, your story, your characters built out, but then also, why will this work for the platform to the best of your ability? You have that argument and you use AI and tools to make that happen.
So it's a really case of proof of concept and the fact that this has got legs and it will land with the audience.
Absolutely, yeah. I think some examples, if you know a buyer, network, or streamer is looking for a very specific type of content that has themes, there are softwares out there now that can analyze your script, look for the themes, tell you how strong those themes are in the script, and then you can highlight those in your pitch saying, we've taken into consideration all of the kind of, things that you are looking for your audience, and this project kind of hits those themes, X, Y, and Z, and here's the proof. That's, as much as you can do before actually making the thing and putting it out there, but you try to mitigate the risk as much as possible in the beginning.
And is it still the case that there's always, I know with each broadcaster, there's always a shopping list, should we say, a guide of what they're looking for different slots and different platforms, what they're missing in their mix. Does that still apply? And does that help, again? Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's always changing, just like AI, audience and tastes are always changing, and how everyone's watching things are constantly changing, right? So I think, it's staying up to date with industry trends, reading the kind of commissioner indexes and insights, seeing what people are buying, and having those personal then relationships, obviously, as well, to know what people want.
And I'm going to bring in Vipul. Now, anyone that hasn't come across Mugafi needs to get on that platform and have a look. So Vipul, thank you for flying in from India to join us. You've taken AI and changed the very nature of how we create stories, let alone make them and distribute them. So tell me, what is Mugafi for those of you, who doesn't know about Mugafi, who is not aware of Mugafi yet, or what it does? Okay, right, so explain for us what Mugafi does.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, good evening. So Mugafi is built into two arms. So as Thomas, Carrie both covered, that India have been a tech infrastructure for a very long time for all the big movies that you see, right? So when it comes to AI, also the first sort of adoption that can happen is happening back in India. So we at Mugafi are building across multiple domains where entertainment needs AI to kick in. Starting from a writing as a first thing, helping writers how to write faster and better. A writer who has been taking around 2 years, or getting a lot of operational issues, figuring out how to get into a writer's room, how to know that whether this story idea going to work, is this copied from somewhere across the world, whether dialogues are good or bad, whether it suits the culture or not. So all those things can be covered with help of AI. It's not a place where you upload a log line and get a script out of it. Like, it's not a magic. It's just a handhold. It's a co-pilot. It's someone where you feel that you can talk to someone who gonna keep a check on you and help you write faster and better.
So it's not like ChatGTP where you can just tell me, write a script about this. So it's it's more sophisticated because you've got mentors or experts in place. Is that?
No, we don't even allow that. Like, we don't allow you to think of more than one scene at a time through AI. The idea is just to make you a little more productive, help you or refine the script particularly. For example, a basic feature is that if you have defined that who the character is, right? A character comes, let's say, from tier 3 town, and while you're writing a dialogue of the character, we will tell you that this dialogue suits this character or not, right? So you always know that I'm not writing something about someone where the audience does not gonna connect. So that's all we're gonna, like, culture, mythology, art is all what we cover, and then eventually help writer write a better story out of it. Like, I believe in the next 5 years, the 2 people who are gonna be the main focus in the whole ecosystem are going to be the writer who have the idea and the directors who are gonna figure out how this idea gonna come out in front of the world. So everything gonna build around them, and that's what we are here building or solving at Mugafi for.
Now that might seem a little bit scary, but there's teams involved in productions, Vipul, and this has been the big fear factor is that, are people going to lose their jobs? Well, naturally, with any change, there's a shakedown, but there's also new opportunities. So, are you saying that the writer is the key going forward, and why is the writer the most important person in the process now for new films and ideas?
So if you look how the movie production have grown up in last 100 years, the only thing that have changed are 2 things. One is the way of distribution, how the internet came in. You have Netflix, you have Prime, a lot of big platforms. You have a new medium like OTT or audio shows back in India by which the content is getting distributed. And apart from that, the equipments that we were buying, the cost have went down, the quality have went up. That's all. When you look at from the story side, it's still about who have the money to buy those equipments. It's still about who can make it well. But with AI coming in, if everyone from you can go out and make a movie, let's say using Runway, using virtual production, then it's all about who have the great idea. So if you have that great idea, if you have that will of how you're gonna execute it, that's where the difference gonna be. I'm seeing a lot of production houses who are now playing with a place where you're going to call actor for a day, get it shot with him, a day onwards, there's someone else who is acting, and you just replace him and replace with the actor. So you don't need like 50 days, 100 days on an actor to shoot the whole movie. So it's all going to be cheaper, faster. So what matters is the great idea that you have and how well you're going to execute it.
So the actor only has to come in. Okay, so we're moving on naturally onto actors, image, and IP. So, I'm sure some people here have seen the Black Mirror episode where you can, once you've got the actors, IP, image all done, you can just use it for everything else in different scenes. Is that reality, Thomas, Vipul, Carrie? Do you think that's going to be happening? Are we heading there shortly or eventually?
Well, I think it's already happening, isn't it? It's already happened. So, we've seen so many films like science fiction movies where the characters aren't the real people, the real actors. Obviously, from Avatar onwards, it's been happening. It's nothing new. So so the question is, do the actors get a credit for it, or are they actually even involved in the process, or do we regenerate an actor from the past and bring them to life, etc.? So, but I think the question is that it's happening already, so I don't think it's a done deal.
So, Thomas, you run a talent side to your business as well.
Absolutely. So our talent management side of the business. I think the way we look at it is that it's a fairness question, right? Like, AI is great, but obviously needs humans to run it and is based off of ideas that humans have created, right? So it comes down to a fairness question. And then also balancing act of having enough restriction and protection on image rights, which we absolutely want and need, and at the same time allowing for enough commercial exploitation to take advantage of also all of the advantages AI allows, right? So it's an ever-changing thing. We typically look to the guilds to really advise us on how best to support our clients and our talent in that space. But it's finding a balance between restrictions, protections, but also commercial exploitation, because everyone should be then fairly compensated as well.
Which might be easier over here than in the Indian market, Carrie, do you think? And
I was thinking how India's going to grab AI very, very quickly. It's already happening now. And obviously great companies like this are obviously going to make a difference. But how do you hold back all the other people that are going to be ripping people? The culture is right to copyright is a different thing in South Asia. So how is that going to be managed in South Asia, where if you want to take somebody to court for example, plagiarism of a script, it can take you 15 years, for example, in the Indian court. So how is maybe AI can help with that as well? But it's an interesting process about how do you control copyright in South Asia?
Back to you, Vipul. So IP protection and the rights of the actor or in your stories.
So again, whatever you write on the platform remains encrypted, remains with you. All those things we ensure. But nothing is protected, right, if you're not building it. Like great ideas, irrespective you're an entrepreneur, you're a writer, are ideas till you don't execute it. So it's not a fight of who's going to write first. It's a fight of who's going to execute first. So as AI keep coming in, as it's going to be more easier and faster for you to publish something, maybe it a book, maybe it a comic, if not a movie at least, that's where you at least going to hold some copyright. So just keeping it written somewhere doesn't going to ensure that someone else not going to think of it, right? So same idea goes across everyone. Everyone is reading same mythology. They might have the same inspiration. So writing itself is not enough valuable if it's not been executed in some form. So I think it all leads to execution with AI coming in. If you end up on executing fast, that's the hold of your own IP with you going to be.
Explain your model. So you've created Mugafi. It helps democratize the access for writers across the world, India and the world, to be able to write and bring to life their stories that are inside their hearts, they're desperate to tell, but don't have the expertise or the access to go anywhere. And then the ability, what do you do from that? Where do you take it?
So multiple pieces or two large pieces of it. One is to ensure that a writer, like we do enough hand-holding to a writer, either through an AI tool, through a human mentoring if required, and ensure that he reaches to an end goal. The end goal here could be writing a story, writing a comic, writing a screenplay, could be anything. And AI comes a lot handy over here. You do not need to know how to write a screenplay in order to write it, because AI can do it for you, but you need to know the great idea. You need to write a step-by-step that's what's going to happen in your story, right? So that's more important. That's the first piece of the puzzle. But writing a great story is not where the things stop, right? So that's not where we also stop. We have a other part of the ecosystem where we bring all the production houses in India, in US, and over here also, where we go and pitch in all these ideas and ensure that these get executed. Like today at Mugafi, we are developing more than 1,000 IPs a year, and we are ensuring that a lot of those IPs are either goes out in the form of audio stories, which are cheapest form of building it, or a YouTube show, or a regional show, or even a large movie. But it goes out in some form, so people know it's written by this writer and it's got executed in some form. So that's a two-piece model that way we work in, ensuring you write well, and then it got converted into something at the end of the day.
So, as Thomas mentioned as well, you're stress testing the concept, the viability in the marketplace, and then you can license those deals to production houses to make it here or around the world. It's a very smart model, and you can the sheer quantity of content, and then what the key is, I'm showing here, is the originality of the idea. Is that the core? So, did you want to say something as well?
No, I was going to say something to the point there. It's great that AI has democratized, the creation of content. I think there's a few skill sets too, like great, everyone can become a writer and try to do that. But then also you as a writer, you don't, quite often you're asked to write on other people's projects too, right? So learning the skill set of collaboration, writing in someone else's voice, writing a different character's voice that's not necessarily only your project is a huge skill set to have as well. So on one hand, it's fantastic as a tool, but there are so many things that can only really be developed by being in person with someone, working with them actually in a writer's room and really riffing on their project that you can't learn just from inputting things. There's also the hard skills as well, which become really important too.
Is that incorporated? Do you see that?
Yeah, that's true. That's how the human element comes in. Like we have a team of writers who kind of understand every story that they've been writing and who you are writing for. And it's not just a combination of you and a co-pilot, but also about interacting with all these people regularly, like a weekend interaction, a group interaction. So all those things we kind of cover up because that's more important at the end of the day.
Because otherwise, for many creatives, I mean, it would just end up being a very solo experience and quite a lonely one. And part of the creative experience is to be in a team and enjoy that process.
That's the fun part, right?
Exactly.
Come on.
But yeah, I do worry about AI will be editing, won't it? I mean, the whole editing side, do you think that's one of the areas that's going to Carrie, do you think?
Well, I think that one of the things from an indie point of view, as a short filmmaker myself, and I think one of the interesting things is about like doing even things like a pitch deck. As a writer, director, you can suddenly visualize your ideas, where you could have you can do a pitch deck which will visualize, communicate to what the kind of story you want to tell just through the pitch deck, where you couldn't do it in the past. You'd have to kind of paste together loads of images of other films. Now you can actually paste together your own film, which is quite amazing, which is like, that's a really creative experience in itself. If you're in control of that process, or with your producer or tech producer, whatever, that kind of creates, that's quite exciting.
Yeah, I do like that, the idea that as a director or as a writer or a director, you have an idea and you have a vision, and you don't have to go through many other people in the team to realize that the set needs to look like this, that I want this costume, whatever it is, all those visual things. You can have it exactly how you want it, translate it, and less room of error or being disappointed. It's a true creation. So moving on to, so we talked about AI and technology and we're democratizing it. Let's talk about where the audience is watching, because that's also fundamentally changing all the time. So OTT, streamers, cinema, Gary, everyone thought cinema was dead, but they're not. They are thriving.
Yeah, noticeably the festivals are, like Cannes Film Festival has ramped up its audience this year. The festivals are definitely back, and the audiences are coming back after, it's been, 5 years now, 4 or 5 years where people have been away, and they're actually now, there's been drips and drabs coming back. But every year as an exhibitor, I find that my audience, I don't know what my audience is going to want this year, which has been quite crazy because there's been a constant shift every year, particularly after COVID or during COVID.
Actually, explain that, because you were obviously in-person festival, and then how did you cope with
we
pandemic?
switched to, well, we were the only, I think we were one of 3 festivals in May 2020 in the UK, possibly in Europe, that switched to digital in the middle of COVID. We switched to, in May 2020, we thought rather than try and outrun the storm, we're just going to ride the storm into the eye. And we actually tripled our audience attendance, in fact, because we were the only player in the space. It was Netflix or Amazon or a little tiny festival kind of riding there for South Asians to watch for free. And actually we were, the filmmakers gave us the films for free because they believed we were the film festival that they chose, that they would be championing them. So that was a unique space and time. We set up our own platform, based on platforms that were happening in Copenhagen, for example, Copenhagen CP Docs.
Your own streaming platform.
So our own streaming platform. But within 1 year, that whole audience had gone from right up and then to crash, and it was quite amazing. Within a year, nobody wanted to watch that platform anymore. We had like 1,000 people watching it rather than 20, 30,000. So it was. So we've moved on to the BFI Player, which is a guaranteed sort of UK-wide OTT platform where we can showcase our shorts, our British Asian shorts, our LGBT shorts, and films that we are championing in that space. So that's become a reliable sort of interface with the whole of the UK-wide audience on South Asian cinema and British Asian cinema, importantly. So that's the BFI player has a whole range of different British Asian we've curated within that program, within that platform as well. So that's another way of looking at certainly the OTT platform from a UK-wide perspective, not from the big, everybody chases after Netflix and kind of stuff like that. So that's a different model than that's been talked about already.
Well, we're going to move on to different models now, Thomas. So, gosh, Netflix, Amazon, there were advert-free platforms. You can watch it seamless. Now we've got ads creeping in. So there are, SVOD models. So it's, with advertising, there's fast models. So there seems to be more and more channels coming up, like Tumi and Pluto, which are channels where you can watch free content, but the price is adverts. Do you think we will stop paying? I mean, has Netflix now finally made a profit? I mean, what's happening in the OTT market?
I think, will we ever stop paying? I think the easy answer is no. I think we'll always have to pay for something. Yeah, things are changing rapidly. I think we all kind of remember what they called the great Netflix stock correction when that happened. And I think that was when everyone had to really prove the business aspects. And it wasn't grow by any means. At the same time, you had this billion-dollar advertising industry kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to get in, and the streamers kind of going like, all right, well, now's a good time to allow you guys to get in on the business. So I think there will always be different models. I think the other thing that gets kind of ignored or pushed under the rug because we talk about OTT so often is that the elephants in the room really are TikTok and YouTube. That's where the majority of viewing is, right? So, you talk about your advertisers advertising there, the amount of eyeballs there, and figuring out how to be clever and adapt to the ever-changing viewing habits, right? We take an approach of trying to be clever with how we work on those platforms as well, and not just focus only on the traditional streaming platforms or terrestrial channels, but also try to figure out short form and digital too.
Well, in India, if you look at the stats, YouTube is the biggest channel. Over 40% of people are watching on YouTube, and followed by Netflix.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, TikTok's not available in India, but I think in TikTok in the US accounts for more than all of the streaming services combined, I believe, something like that. So I think you can't ignore them. You need to figure out what your strategy is, whether it's just marketing, right? If it's a traditional film for theatrical, of course, but staying up to date on how to take advantage of those channels at the very least.
Vipul, sorry, Harry, would you like to say something?
I would just say that from the filmmaker perspective, it's important to know the other OTT platforms in the Indian market, of course. So that's, there's so many emerging and existing which are competing with Netflix and Amazon in the Indian space. And those are all taking content, and including short films. There's short film content as well. And what was interesting at Film Bazaar last year was listening to a specialist on OTT platforms about how you sell your content into different platforms, even content that might be 5 years old. There's still a market for that globally, and how to best sell your products. So the film is not dead by the time it's a year old anymore. You can resell films that are 5-10 years old by knowing what kind of platform to market them on or to approach.
Because you're right, there are all these other platforms that are advertising-led streaming platforms. They're full with content that's been seen and on many platforms. So you're right, there's infinite amount of playtime and airtime for the content.
I think to that point, one of the things we've seen too, we work with a few sports leagues who have decades worth of legacy race footage or whatever it may be, which, for lack of a better word, is just collecting dust sitting there, right? And what we've been preaching is put that content to work, right? Go back through, edit it, right? Top 10 best finishes, top 10 best races, whatever it is. Create a channel, monetize that, put it out on YouTube, start building your audience with all of this content that could be repurposed, re-edited, and put out to the world, to your point. And figuring out a different way, creating shorts out of this to find a new audience is really important.
I suppose it would be very exciting to make, South Asian, Indian content here that could be easily watched back in India and subcontinent as well, because people want to watch same but different. And like you said, we talked earlier today as well about universal themes. Everyone's interested in the same things because we're all basically the same. We all want love. We all get hurt. We all experience pain, and.
I mean, we don't know what the market is for, like in a few years' time, for British Asian content, for example. It may be that suddenly, with this globalization interest, maybe India will suddenly become interested in British Asian shorts or features. And that's the exciting thing, is nobody knows how this is going to develop. And so those opportunities are there for all of us as filmmakers.
Vipul knows. So let's talk mythology. So obviously we are all aware of the Marvel, DC franchises, and I think Vipul, you have a vision for Indian filmmaking and where India sits in the world. Explain that to us.
I think, just to add one more point on audience, as we're discussing, is that cinema goes, like all the cinema goers are mostly go for experience. That's where it counts. But everything else is a lot about time. And as AI is not just coming in film, it's coming in all the domains, right? And the end goal is to make human more productive, which leads to us have more and more time. And where the time gonna get spent, right? Like travel or entertainment, that's where the fight is. So a lot of new formats will emerge. And everyone will eventually compete for time of the human beings, and as the time grows, the demand of the content also grows, and that's why we are seeing the rise of audio in India, which is right now taking over. Does that mean the quality of the content yet? We don't know, but at least it all shows that there is an insane demand, there is an insane time available that humans have, and there is a need of a good content that need to come out. Coming back on Mytho, I have a large belief in that Indian mytho is still unexplored. It's still not talked like the way it should have been talked across the globe. You look at Pokemon. Pokemon comes from Japanese mytho, yokai, and they have really transformed into a newer way of people understanding or connecting with the local mythology. A lot of people have done it. You look at Marvels, it's a lot inspired from Roman, Greek, or Indian mythology. So whenever you talk about Mahabharata, Ramayana, I think people are getting bored, or the new generation who's coming in, they don't want to learn the same lessons or look at the same characters in the same way it's been taught 100 years ago. So they want a newer generation or a newer way of how these characters should be shown. That's what we are trying to build now. So training a lot of models with all the data that we have available on mythology. You guys won't believe, any guess that how many heroes or characters we have in Indian mythology?
How many?
Any random guess?
Anyone? Do you know how many characters in Indian mythology?
We have 2 million characters in our mytho.
2 million?
Wow.
Yeah.
You're sitting on a gold mine.
There's
then,
one
Vipul.
character which is shown in a multiple form the moment you vary from state to state. You go from Kashmir to Bangalore, you're going to see the same character having a different power, different life, different ending, have different pieces. So there's an insane content. What we know is Ramayana, Mahabharata, or 7 Chiranjeevis, the immortals. But beyond that, there is a lot of space. You go to Indonesia, 70% of the Mahabharata happened in Indonesia. So a lot of things people don't know in India about Mahabharata. You'll go back, live in Indonesia, you'll get to know about those characters, right? So that's what we are doing. We are now reimagining all those characters born in 2020, born after 2020, and how their life going to look like if they have to portray those scenes over here, all with different names, but are largely inspired with the same lessons to grow at the end of it. So I think India is long due to give their next Marvels, next Harry Potter, next cinematic experience. That's what we are trying to chase. It's a long shot. In last 100 years, we have been building same IPs which have been existing. You look at Marvels, you look at Barbie, it's all been 1920s, 30s, 40s. And the goal was only to create it again and again, right? We are now building the movie on this hot wheel. So there's no new IPs being formed. That's a big risk, so people don't try it much. But we think, okay, I think that's a time where you should give a next 10 years, try to build these IPs which can go global from India and put India on a global stage.
And that ties into gaming, for example. Last year we did a premiere of a new Indian game which is based on the Ramayana. It's kind of a cross between Lara Croft and the Ramayana. So you've got this action heroine fighting all these monsters or whatever, but they're all from directly from the Ramayana, and I believe Netflix has picked it up as well. So that kind of creativity is happening, as you said. There's plenty of kind of epic stories that we can draw on for a younger audience, and so that's that dynamic edge between gaming and filmmaking, which is quite exciting.
And also, what is it that people, I mean, I think it's a reflection of what people want to watch. There's two things. There's, AI is also helping when you have more individualized content that's more tailored for what is it that I'm really interested in, what is it that I really want, as well as yes, I can go and watch, I'm currently into Korean drama at the moment, I'm addicted to that. So, but this ability to have a platform to allow 5,000 stories to come to life and unleash that across Indians all over the world to be able to their interpretations of what the Gen X and Gen Z what they want to how they want the stories to be told. It's incredibly exciting. I think and that's why I love it because it's very positive future, isn't it? Looking ahead.
A lot happening on the culture side. So I think understanding where the story going to work is also going to reduce a lot of wastage that we do, not just while producing the movie, but also while marketing. Half of you might be aware of this movie called Tanahaji, came with Ajay Devgan, right? So that movie ended up on making almost $40 million. But if you look at the stats, 70% of the money comes from Maharashtra. So if you have told the producers beforehand, they would not have marketed across a large sum of money in the rest of the India, focused over there and saved a lot of money. There is a movie called Bhaiyaji recently came in India, and the producer knew that that's a Bihar, UP track. So all the marketing being done over there. No one in the other side of the world even know about that movie coming in, and because producer knew that that's where the money going to come from. So I think the understanding of how the movie going to work out, which audience it suits right to, and how the people going to perceive it will save a lot of wastage at the end of the day.
It will save a lot, targeted, knowing who your audience is key, and also saves a lot of heartache. Going with that, gone are the days with one script that someone's written and you're bashing on the doors, and one day, 10 years later, it's going to be made. That is what you're eliminating, that pain as well. Correct, and I think that's a good thing.
I still think that's still going to happen anyway. That's how filmmaking works.
Rid of that. Yeah.
It's like The Alchemist. Yeah, that's going to happen. So the other end of this is individualized content as well. India has 22 official languages. Obviously, it goes up to about, I think 270. That's going to open up, with the technology now, where automatic dubbing, which I hate watching dub stuff. I can't bear it because it's just so awful. But I think that's about to change. And the whole age of where we didn't like subtitles because it was hard work. Then because of the streaming OTTs, we loved subtitles because we want to watch Squid Games and things like that. Is that going to change again to fantastic dubbing that we won't need to have subtitles?
A lot is happening. There's a tool called Flawless AI, if you want to see. So it kind of dub you in the voice of an actor with the lip syncing also. So you do not have to now go back, get someone else to dub your story. It's the same actor who's going to just have a lip syncing done and the new dialogue in Spanish, German, whichever language you want, being translated into. So I think next 2 years, it's not far, 1 year, 2 year max, where you're going to see AI at least playing a lot of role in these operational tasks, which I call it. These are a lot of service thing, and a lot of service thing going to get changed for sure with the AI. How fast you adopt it, how you're going to adopt it is the larger difference here.
But that's make a big difference, doesn't it? If you're going to release a film in India and you can do it across the 22 languages simultaneously, so where the box offices are, that's going to be a huge hit. It's a huge success then. It just gives you more access and availability for audiences.
I think that ties into the argument about the creativity of the southern states of India, which are historically been cut off from the North India, for example. But that kind of expansion of South Indian cinema may be tied into that in terms of the huge creative and individuality of those stories, rather than the kind of formula Bollywood films. There's a kind of Bahubali is obviously an obvious one, but to see that kind of expansion maybe across the world, that might be something for the future, but who knows at this stage. But certainly South India's Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, all that kind of, have always created very unique stories, which I think would be, as you say, tie into the idea of dubbing. But if you go on Netflix now, anyway, the films are all most of Europe watches dubbed films, so and they're happy with that. It's been like that for decades. So it's nothing new. Yeah.
So the age of Hollywood, as it is, I think Vipul touched on it, remaking old stuff, making the same sorts of genres, and I think there is a point, it's a bit tired. I mean, I love going to cinema, but I myself now feel like, oh, where's the edgy, where's the other film that's different? That as a viewer, you always want something new, different, that's going to take you to a place you haven't been to before, or is going to make you feel something that you haven't felt before. So in terms of what you're saying, Vipul, in terms of Indian films coming out now, are you seeing different themes coming out? Are you seeing that with the writers that you're working with? I mean, also with you, Carrie, the film things that have been coming to the festival. I didn't get a chance to come to it, but what themes are coming through now, young filmmakers, or generally?
And I think there's been a pattern with the writers who is focusing on one-off stories. It's always been a similar setup, which have been there, that's getting inspired from. And that's a sad part of the whole thing, right? You always get inspired from something, try to write something around those lines, thinking this worked, so my story should be around this line, so there's a high chance of it gonna work. So what we have done is that we have started focusing a lot of our energy into world building. So we don't start directly from writing a story, but a focus on a lot of imagining a new world. So there's a team separate whose job is to identify, imagine how the world's gonna be, under which the story setup going to be. So, and that's where the imagination part comes in, where the risk gonna be there for sure, but that's which something gonna break the barrier. And as many audience we kind of get interacted with, this different medium we do, we realize that audience are willing to, to go out and to watch cinema, which really have broken barrier. Kalki is one example, right? People, irrespective of how the movie have actually come out, but people are going, people are trying to support it, right? So a lot of people say it's an Indian try, so we're gonna go in the cinema, we're gonna give it a try, we're gonna see it, we're gonna support it. So that thing is there. Now, how many times you're going to keep testing it? You have to one day deliver the great outcome. And I think that's what we're going to see in next 2-3 years. And for that, world building becomes more important than the story building from day one.
So as we come to the end, I think we've got, 3 minutes, 2 minutes left. I don't know if there's any burning question, but I would say, oh gosh. Okay, there's three questions. Are you okay to take, okay.
All of you in tech, so to speak, but media plus tech, have you considered the fact that every time we as consumers get onto the Netflix OTT platforms, we're really burning up the data centers and the internet bandwidth? Are you considering the ESG impact of what you guys are creating now compared to the past when the films were physically delivered to the theaters?
Is that from a sustainability point of view?
It hasn't been a focus of ours. I do know, we know a few colleagues of ours who are investing in programs who have an environmental message at its core to bring awareness to issues like this. But I know with us particularly not being so far into tech, more on the creator side, it hasn't been a big issue for us yet.
I mean, I spoke to someone earlier, and it is, the amount of data storage. I mean, it comes out to data storage. The more
all of this looks a bigger issue at day one. Like we spoke a lot about Bitcoin taking a lot of energies at one point, and then eventually either people forget or people find solutions. So, are these problems big enough to really think right now, or are we going to just keep trying and look what comes to the future? So, every time you're trying to take risk, build something which is going to have a higher impact, have some cost. Be it environmental, be it cost, be it electricity, but I think it all gets solved in a long time, or we end up on getting used to it. So that's why.
Okay, next one. Gentleman over there. Before they throw us off the stage.
It sounds like, is this a great opportunity for, while in the West, sort of all the unions and guilds are arguing about rights and who has, where you can use AI, but is that opportunity for India where it's a bit more relaxed, especially with like text to video, AI going to be, infinitely sort of increase in the next few years? That sort, especially with like cost of production really expensive here, is that a real big opportunity for India to sort of take a march, take a lead on that when it's a bit more relaxed to be able to exploit those AI opportunities?
Is that a question for Vipul?
Yeah, or just
What, that Runway, Gen 3 and Sora are going to make it easier.
Yeah, you can use like text to videos, like where, because in the West, all the unions are arguing about rights.
Yeah, I mean,
can use the AI, whereas in
Wait.
media,
I mean, at the moment, they can make 1 minute. I mean, I think advertising and social media is definitely going to be affected by the AI technology at the moment. But text to video, text to making a movie.
Like, nothing is impossible. So, like, at least we have realized in tech, we are not going to write off anything. We believe everything is possible. And the only question is how fast it's going to happen. But we are seeing examples like, you have seen this Everything Everywhere All at Once. The movie built it on runway, virtual studio, eventually got Oscars also, made a lot of money. It's a lot about what exists today and how you're going to use it. The world is getting more flatter when it comes to build a high-quality content. Again, it's about our imagination, our ideas is what matters at the end. So. Then there's a tool called Wonder Studio, that saves a lot when it comes to making animation things. So there's an insane amount of tool available out in the market. I have a full deck with me. If you want, I'll share that. Again, it's all about us. Imagine, build it, and the world is flat, is what I say at the end.
I think that's a lovely way to wrap it up. So any final words to all those AI skeptics, people worried about technology is going to take all their jobs? Something positive from each one of us. One of you, please. Vipul? I can start with Thomas. Let's start that.
I would say embrace it. Don't get caught behind. Embrace it all the way.
I would say that, it's inevitable that that's going to happen. It's going to hit the higher, big budget films, obviously, first. Independent filmmaking in India is still struggling more than it was a year ago, for example. But there's obviously, I think it's not going to percolate down to the independent filmmakers just yet because of the costs, obviously, associated with that. It's aiming at the high levels first. It may percolate down in 5-6 years or something like that. I'm still looking for the next range of films for next year's festival, which will be indie films, which is our bag. And, so that's going to be there, unfortunately, there's less and less numbers of Indian or South Asian films coming in every year, which is quite interesting from independent perspective, and we'd like to see more. And that's because of the funding, for example, because of the big boys of coming in and people are aiming and people want to watch stuff on OTT platforms. So it's interesting. But being on the positive note, then obviously we've got the AI technology will help. Independent filmmakers, as you said, with visualizing your scripts and other activities.
Especially the ones in the room today, get writing those scripts and get those stories out. And Vipul?
Yeah, I think I see we still control it. So till we control it, use your imagination, use it right, instead of getting fearful of it. So just cherish it till we control it.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you so much, Vipul, for joining us today. And all our lovely audience, thank you for listening. I think it was a very engaging session. And yeah, embrace it. It's coming, so we might as well get on the train. Thank you.
Thank you.
You will